It's almost!
He's done it again! Unbelievable!
Oh, straight into the roof of the net.
Nice one.
Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
Hello and welcome to Firstpost. I'm Rupha Ramani. Let's get started. On the show today, Indian cricket commentator Sunil Gavaskar has irked fans all over again. He's made another bold statement after India's win over Bangladesh recently. Is this bitterness spilling out or just an expert expressing his bold opinions? And speaking of being bold and brazen, Spanish top tennis player Paula Badosa is in trouble. After a picture of hers went viral, she has been accused of being racist and has pulled out of the Wuhan Open for fear of backlash. Is there a toxic racist culture in Spain's sporting tradition? And a pizza giant has stepped in to roast Manchester United manager, man under scrutiny, Erik Ten Hag. What's the latest from the meeting between all the stakeholders last night, and has Ten Hag reached the last straw? More on all of this in the show coming up, but first, a look at the headlines. Starting with cricket, English batter Joe Root surpassed Alistair Cook to become England's highest run getter in Test cricket. Root is unbeaten at 176 currently in the first Test that's underway against Pakistan and Multan. His 71st run broke the 12,472 run record that had stood for close to a decade. Reports suggest that the venue for Champions Trophy final would be moved from Lahore to Dubai if India qualifies for the final. There are also talks of moving the semi-final venues to a neutral place. This after India denied travelling to Pakistan for the Champions Trophy. The PCB, though, has quashed the reports. The ICC is yet to make an official announcement. Over in the Women's World Cup, Australia beat New Zealand by 60 runs in a Group A match. Batting first, Australia posted a 149-run target for New Zealand. Beth Mooney top scored with 40 runs. In response, New Zealand were bundled out for 88. Megan Schutt was the pick of the bowlers with figures of 3 for 3. Over in tennis and the Shanghai Masters, world number 2 Carlos Alcaraz has cruised to the quarterfinals. The Spaniard defeated Gay Monfils in straight sets, 6-4, 7-5. In another match, world number 1 Yannick Sinner has also made it to the last 8 by beating Ben Shelton 6-4, 7-6 and will now face Daniil Medvedev. Continuing with, there's some more football news though. Barcelona and Spanish legend Andre Iniesta announced his retirement from football. He called time on a 22-year-long career. He's 40 now and he's made 131 appearances for Spain. His greatest moment came when he scored the only goal in the 2010 World Cup final. He has 2 European Championships and 4 UEFA Champions League titles to his name. And summing it up with table tennis, Indian women's table tennis team secured a historic bronze at the Asian Table Tennis Championships, their first in the history. India's campaign ended with a 1-3 loss to Japan in the semi-final. Manika Batra won the only point for India. You remember the whitewash Indian men's cricket team handed Bangladesh just last week was quite the lashing. The highlight of that series win was India's explosive, aggressive batting on day 4 of the second test. And of course, fans loved it. They shut up Michael Vaughan, England commentator, who credited that to the baseball approach. Now there's another commentator who is facing the ire of fans everywhere, a comment that was made post that series. The commentator in question here, and the one I'm referring to, is India's former batter, a prolific opener himself, Sunil Gavaskar. And the comment that's landed him in a bit of trouble is this one.
Instead of using the words this ball or that ball, I would suggest using the skipper's first name, Rohit, and term it the go-hit approach. Gambhir has only been coaching for a couple of months, so attributing this approach to him is foot-licking of the highest quality.
Go hit may sound all cool, but seems like a command you could add and pass off as a Gen Z slang. But jokes apart, Gavaskar says that there is no way anyone should credit Gautam Gambhir for India's intent that day. He goes on to say that India should only give all credit to their captain Rohit Sharma for this approach, because he's got that kind of flair. In this phase, even if you look at the World Cup last year, the ODI World Cup, Rohit's main goal up the order as an opener was to set the tempo, create that kind of impact and put the opposition under pressure. It's something that comes naturally to him, and that's what he successfully achieved in the ODI World Cup. He tried to execute the same in the T20 World Cup as well. Gavaskar says Gambhir never played that way in all of his career, so no way he would advocate that as a coach and a mentor, so no credit goes to him. Sounds so very logical, but it's like saying you can't speak about the art of bowling because you've been a batter all your life. It's cricket, there's a certain dynamics to it. You're referring to a player who's played alongside someone like Virender Sehwag, who himself was a swashbuckling opener, the OG, if I could say that, when it comes to aggressive gameplay. Gambhir took his IPL side, Kolkata Knight Riders, to victory as a captain and a coach too, years later, just this year. He knows how to strategize, and of course, this sort of statement did not sit down too well with fans who come around to the GG way of things. And Gavaskar ended up bearing the brunt of that. Now, I get the backlash. This isn't the first time Gavaskar has been so very candid in his critique, especially of certain Indian cricketers. He does have the habit of being very vocal about what he feels, and many feel sometimes he probably crosses the line too. Here's some things that will jog your memory a bit. Take a look. Right, he doesn't restrict himself to cricketers alone. Obviously, he's pushed the envelope there. Very colourful, some quiet, some very witty, some sharp and bound to open a can of worms and create the flutter. Controversial to the hilt. But it makes me ask, is there an edge to his comments? Professional observations of the game is all right. It's fine to critique. But is there a sense of over-critiquing, especially when it becomes the same player in question time and again? I want to ask you, the spectators, how far you can take a commentary on the professional space. It's fair to have opinions, especially from someone who's been in this environment, in this industry for decades, who's played the sport. He also gives talking points to people who report on the sport. Enough fodder there. But is Gavaskar pushing the boundaries when it comes to giving his honest opinion on players when it is outside the realm of the game and the technical aspects? Why don't you let us know where you stand on this matter? Sports has grown significantly, both in terms of facilities and in terms of technologies over the past 2 decades. But as the sporting industry is continuously trying to make that upward climb, the culture around this, in some parts, seems to be regressive. Racism is much more evident now than it was before. Former world number 2 and Spain's tennis star Paula Badosa has been accused of being racist. What was the incident? Following Badosa's China Open semi-final loss to eventual winner Coco Gauff, the Spaniards coach Paul Toledo uploaded this controversial photo of the athlete. In the photo, Badosa can be seen pulling her eyes back with chopsticks. Soon the picture went viral and fans started criticizing Badosa for this gesture. Some very harsh comments there. Now, Badosa may not have uploaded the picture herself. The fact remains that she was making those gestures. Badosa was forced to issue an apology, of course, for as soon as fans started slamming her. Take a look.
We weren't even imitating Asian people. I was playing around with my face and wrinkles. I love Asia and have plenty of Asian friends. Really sorry, I didn't know this was offensive towards racism. I take full responsibility. These mistakes will make me learn for next time. Hope you understand.
Now, Badosa was hoping that the apology would be enough and would make fans go easy on her. It really didn't. There were more caustic remarks that came to that apology. It went from bad to worse because Badosa had to pull out of the Wuhan Open just hours before her first round encounter for fear of receiving more backlash. The world number 15, though, claims that she fell ill and that was the reason behind her decision to pull out. Now, she clearly got worried with the trolling she received on social media, and given the competition was being held in Wuhan, China, Badosa didn't want to take that chance. Clearly, fans didn't let her live this down either, pulling her up even for pulling out of the tournament. Now, here's the part I really want to talk about, though. It's Badosa's nationality. Spain has been home to several controversies in the recent past pertaining to racism alone. A majority of the cases are predominantly in football, but given the global popularity and the fandom the sport has, I'd say this is enough to point out the broader picture here. A sport that is consumed the most by Spanish citizens is stuck in the regressive realm of racism. Fans get carried away in insulting opposition players so much so that they don't even realize it is portraying Spain as a racist country in the sporting world. Spanish fans haven't been kind to players of color. Top players like Vinicius Jr. and Samuel Chukwueze have borne the brunt of that. Spain has been trying to tackle these issues over years now, but is it really making it any better? This despite a fan being punished with a 12-month suspended jail sentence for racially abusing these players I just mentioned. The racist attacks simply continued during Real Madrid's matches thereafter. The same was seen in the Madrid derby too between Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid. Atletico fans were wearing masks so that they could abuse Vinicius Jr. racially without getting caught. So clearly the strict measures aren't helping. And what's a little disturbing to note is that many in Spain do not even take racism as a wrongful act to be condoned, like La Liga boss Javier Tebas.
If we compare ourselves with other countries' behavior, I think we have a lot less racism than in any other country. And they are mainly focused on Vinicius. And maybe that's because Vinicius is leading a case against racism, so that's why we have these isolated events that attack him.
Tebas' statement reflects the problem in Spain's sporting culture. If the La Liga president thinks it's okay to have these isolated incidents, then that's a problem. And that's what we have seen all across stadiums too. It highlights that kind of toxic fan culture that can break down even the bravest of players. We saw that happen with Vinicius Jr., which is why Badosa didn't think twice before she made that gesture, not knowing what it would mean. She was hurting sentiments here. The accusations against Badosa, meanwhile, marks the second time a Spanish athlete has had to face charges of racism while in China. Before the Beijing Olympics in 2008, a Spanish basketball federation back then advert showed their men's team using their fingers to pull the sides of their eyes. Back then too, the players and the federation didn't think too much about it. They thought it wasn't a racist move. They were just fooling around. Better sense prevailed though, thankfully, eventually, and they did apologize much later, stating it was a misunderstanding. But we're living in a very sensitive world. Actions, words and gestures matter. With the additional scrutiny, it is that much more difficult because celebrities are watched that much more. There's eyes on them either through the media coverage, the agencies, even mobile phones everywhere. No act, however little, goes unnoticed. And it becomes more imperative for players, once in the public eye, to take on more responsibility because fans watch and learn. They idolize stars. If players begin to indulge in these seemingly orthodox acts, thinking it's okay, and that goes on without being corrected, that's the culture that you're promoting unwittingly. And for a sporting-rich country like Spain, that's definitely not the tag that they want to see propagated. Manchester United manager Erik Ten Hag's job is on the line. Almost everyone, from established voices in the sport to the media to fans, keep calling it after every loss. Maybe this is it, the end of the road for the manager. Something that has been going on for close to a year now. But every time Ten Hag seems to be in trouble, he somehow manages to win a trophy or comes up with a series of brilliant results. Basically, somehow manages to do just about enough to keep his job, to live another day, like he did last year. When United were close to showing Ten Hag the door, the Dutchman won the FA Cup and kept his job. But will that be the case this time too? It's 2024 because United last won a game against Barnsley back in September this year. A series of draws, poor losses and heartbreaks have followed that. Clearly, Ten Hag is pressed against the wall, and guess what? The new critic, in fact, to join the huge line is a pizza giant who took a dig at the Manchester United manager. Take a look. Got to give it to them, cheeky and a little bold. Domino's is basically voicing what every United fan is screaming somewhere, including those in my studio in the production room right now. I'm happy. There was never a Manchester United fan, but coming back to the advert, it makes one thing absolutely certain. He isn't getting a job at Domino's. That we can positively confirm. And while the billboard was a rather candid representation of the situation at Old Trafford, it highlights the bigger issues looming around the Red Devils. The once Premier League winners are now close to relegation zone. Forget a top 3 finish. In 7 matches, they've only won 2 and are placed 14th. And if this streak continues, they might be forced to languish at the bottom 3 of the points table. A few years back, that would have resulted in an immediate sacking for the manager. But somehow Ten Hag has evaded the domino effect. The owners have still held on to Erik Ten Hag, and looks like it will go on for a while now. There was a long meeting held at the Ineos offices to discuss matters at the club. It went on for hours, and yet no announcements or any decisions regarding Ten Hag's position. The meeting was attended by all top brass, people who could take that call regarding Ten Hag, and yet no definitive decision has been taken in that direction.
We are in there together, the ownership, the leadership team, the staff. I appointed a new staff, we bought, again, new young players, and we have to integrate them. Then we will see where we will end in the end of the season.
The most important thing to note in that quote there, end of the season, that's what his words were. Erik Ten Hag truly believes he can survive until 2025 at the very least. Proves that is what he's been told. And time and again, Ten Hag has stayed defiant over his position at United, despite the poor results time and time again. Ten Hag feels he can bring about a drastic change to United's fortunes this year. And given how United are placed currently, if they walk away with one trophy, even if it's a domestic title, Ten Hag might be able to hold on to his job once more. But is that something United fans want? Is that enough? During United's Europa League match against FC Porto, United were leading 2-0 at one stage, but Porto came right back into the game, taking a 3-2 lead. United needed a last-minute goal, and it came from Harry Maguire to result in an embarrassing draw. The effects were felt in Glasgow during another Europa League match between Rangers and Lyon. United's greatest manager, Alex Ferguson, was caught on camera watching the United versus Porto scoreline. While Ferguson's heart lies at United, his reaction clearly wasn't amusing. Fergie is a man who dominated stoppage time. He's surely cringing watching United falter in the manner that they have. Which is why everyone, including Domino's, feels Ten Hag isn't the right person for the job. Everyone except the United management, of course, at least for now. They're just waiting nervously for another trophy to come along, which will give Ten Hag some more time to breathe at Old Trafford. But is that really enough for a team, for a club like Manchester United? Either way, Erik Ten Hag's failure is United's failure. It's a domino effect, but how long before the think tank feels that too? Time for Last Serve, an immersive exhibition dedicated to Argentina football legend Diego Maradona has been organized in Barcelona. Memorabilia from his playing days and from his childhood too. Some unique pieces there. Take a look. That wraps it up here on First Sports. I'll see you again when you tune in at 7 p.m. tomorrow. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.